the last exchanges I would have with my dear friend AKOTO AMPAW would be a Happy New Year emails, which have become a tradition since I met him earlier, this January 2nd, 2023. I took his non-reaction to an email I sent him on May 3rd, an article I wrote in celebration of my friends and allies who stood by me and us Gambian journalists during difficult years under President Jammeh, in which I highlighted him, my pro bono lawyer, as nothing but his disinterest in being seen. On October 19, 2023, I was with our mutual friend, Professor Kari in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso, where Prof was receiving a Champion of Press Freedom Award, and asked about my dear SHEEY SHEEY. Prof was surprised that I was not aware that SHEEY SHEEY had not been well since the beginning of the year. He informed me that she was actually in hospital, but that once he returned to Accra, he would pass the phone to SHEEY so I could say hi and wish him well. The very next morning, Prof called to inform me that SHEEY SHEEY had passed on. I was dumbfounded. I did not even know what to say to Prof, as I had seen how emotional he was the day before, just describing SHEEY's ill health. So I met him, I went down and met him, and we sought to comfort each other, remembering our good times with our dear friend, his strength of character, his caringness, and willingness to make our world a just and better society. I met AKOTO AMPAW for the first time sometime in 2007 at a Media Foundation conference organized here in Accra. At the time, I was the Secretary General of the Gambia Press Union. We struck an immediate friendship, as I was touched by SHEEY SHEEY's empathy for us Gambian journalists, and struck by his awareness of the state of the Gambian media in general, human rights abuses, and the particular concern he showed for the impunity that surrounded the murder of the newspaper editor in December 2004. Little did I know at the time that come June 2009, AKOTO AMPAW would be playing such a meaningful, impactful and decisive role in my life. He literally became a centerpiece, as he was my go-to guy as an exilee and as the then president of the Gambia Press Union. I later nicknamed him my pro bono lawyer, as SHEEY SHEEY never charged me or any other Gambian journalist, non-journalist or West African journalist that I introduced him to for legal advice or support. On June 15, 2009, 3 GPU executive members, 3 newspaper editors, and 1 journalist were arrested over an open letter that I addressed to the then Gambian President Yahya Jammeh over very unpleasant remarks that he made about our colleague, the slave editor and called on the state to diligently fast-track investigations and bring the culprits to justice. At the time, I was actually in Bamako, where I had just signed a consulting contract as coordinator of a sub-regional journalism capacity building project. Hence, I was not in the country. As my colleagues could not produce me, they were charged with sedition, with insulting the president, and I was declared a wanted person. I immediately called SHEEY SHEEY and told him about my willingness to turn myself in as author of the letter so that my colleagues, including the VP, who was a breastfeeding mom at the time, was detained with her baby. SHEEY SHEEY, who had detailed knowledge of our media laws in the Gambia, advised against that, as most of those detained were also publishers and would still face charges. He said, "Don't be silly, Elaine. You turning yourself in will only worsen their plight." He further advised that I maintain the advocacy from outside and asked me to call Prof and others and promised to work with lawyers on the ground to ensure their release. A promise he upheld by giving guidance, and they were eventually granted presidential pardon following a sentence of a 2-year prison term. Again, in 2012, 3 friends and I, all members of the Coalition for Change Gambia, were charged with treason over alleged attempts to overthrow the government for having printing and distributed T-shirts with the slogan "End to Dictatorship Now." I was still in exile, and I called Shee Shee at the office. He was apparently in court. I would always, Shee Shee, why don't you have a mobile number? He said, even if I did, I wouldn't give it to you. You are always in trouble. So I just had to wait for him to call me back, which he always did. And when he called late in the evening, we ran through all the options, and I will never forget his words. He said, "Nde, be ready for your extradition attempt now. We will try to get your colleagues out of jail, but you just be very, very careful." True to his words, the Gambia administration immediately sought an extradition order, which the Malian authorities luckily never granted. Instead, I was protected by the state, who went to the extent of granting me asylum and offering me travel documents. Again, Shee Shee was relentless in his advice, in his pursuit for justice for my friends, and guided our Gambian lawyers. During this period, to maybe encourage me, he would describe for me periods of detention that he went through with Kwame and other friends that I am pleased to meet tonight, and tell me that, you know, exile should be good for you then. You can learn another language, and I did. I speak excellent French, and eventually I founded a family in Mali. But it was just, he had this funny way of accepting tragedy, because most exiled people would be distraught, and he just said, no, then he wins. Live your life. In 2013, I called AKOTO AMPAW again from Harare Airport in Zimbabwe as I was detained. So he was right, I was always in trouble, yeah. I was apparently on an international persons wanted list, and the Zimbabwean authorities had informed the Gambian government that I was there, and they were preparing to deport me back to the Gambia. Again, I didn't get Shee Shee. But I was very lucky because he called me back a few minutes later, as I had told the other person on the line that this was very, 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 very urgent. It was a matter of life and death. When he called me back and I explained the situation, he said, "Ingrid, why are you calling me? This is not a legal matter. You're traveling with what passport? A Malian passport. Call the Malian authorities now." I said, "Shee Shee, don't go. I'll call back. I may be deported." So I called the Malian Foreign Ministry, and as he advised, it was resolved immediately. And I was not deported, given the option to enter, which I refused, but I bought a ticket back home. For many, many years, Shee Shee would tease me about my fear that night. "So, Inde, you are all talk. You're afraid of prison." I would say no, but I explained to him that I was actually not afraid of detention, but at the time rape was used as a tool by the authorities, and many female detainees were raped, so I said, "I'm afraid of that." And he said, "If that is the case, we will work at this, and you will never be detained in Gambia." I said, "Okay." Anyway, my pro bono lawyer took on cases of other Gambians, journalists, non-journalists, detainees, death row inmates. Oh my, I always inundated him with problems. And following the summary execution of 9 death row inmates in 2012, many Gambian lawyers were unwilling to take on the case, as the president at the time had sworn to deal with anyone who would seek to obstruct the execution of his orders to eliminate all death row inmates. Gambia had a moratorium from 1983. No due process was respected. I had only one person, Shee Shee. He led an international legal team of lawyers from Mali, from France, and put in a case at the ECOWAS court, and he still didn't get a dime. I said, "Shee Shee, I'm putting in place a fundraising strategy. Did I ask you to pay?" I said, "No." In the end, I had to pay the other lawyers, and it was Shee Shee who did all the work. He submitted the files, and was granted a stay of execution, and nobody was executed in Gambia since then. As the coordinator of the West African Journalists Association Capacity Building Project, I also brought to his attention the plight of colleagues in Guinea and other Francophone countries. My name is Inde, by the way, but he would always say Inde. I said, why? He said, we don't have envy in Ghana. It's only Gambians who have envy. He said, I'm not an expert on French law. Go find yourself a French-speaking lawyer. For anyone who has worked with Francophones, you know how verbose they are, and they just confuse you in the process. So I pleaded, I said, please, okay, guide me on international principles. And then I will use this to tell the lawyers what I want. Again, he gladly, free of charge. I was a frequent traveler to Accra during my years of exile. And on 2 occasions, he took me to dinner very late because he always finished work late. He chided me on my skinniness. He said, exile is taking its toll on you. They don't feed you in Bamako. I gave you fufu, so he said that Ghanaian fufu was the best fufu, and actually this was true. And he introduced me to red bread as well, which I had today. My host cooked red bread for me when I told them that it was Shee who introduced me to red bread. Meanwhile, he never ate. He himself was skinny, but he was always telling me that I'm skinny. It's just stories of resistance and friendship that I remember and that I wanted to share. And for me, it was no coincidence that the day Shee died, I was with Professor Gary Carey, and I told him I had to participate. One last thing, in 2017, when Gambia was born, I was called upon to serve as co-chair of the Media Reforms Committee. And I was not so keen to go back after so many years outside. And he said, what type of person are you? You've been fighting for this all your life. You have the opportunity to change it, and you are still thinking, go home. So I did, and he helped us. He helped us a lot again when I was at the Ministry of Information as co-chair. And I would say, you know, this is government work. He said, I'm not helping the government. I'm helping you, my friend, to realize your dreams. This is why I'm here today.
Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe,
and click on the bell for more updates.